I had a lot of guys yesterday ask me about lock issues with the Mini Adamas from Benchmade. After I showed my testing yesterday with all of the, actually I reposted it. I did the testing last year where I chopped through a bunch of heavy stuff and really hammered on this knife. There's been some lock issues with this knife, and where mainly guys would hammer the spine like so, and the lock would fail and the knife would close. So it's called the spine whack test, and I don't recommend it. I mean, you have to be very careful when you do it, but the knife was failing that test, and in all transparency, mine had the same issue. But it's actually a really easy fix. It's just an assembly problem. So at the factory, when they're putting these together, I believe they're just, they're kind of in a hurry and they just go through, and, it's guys being paid by the hour to put these knives together. So you're going to have some issues occasionally with assembly. And that's all I believe it is an assembly issue. I don't really think there's any problem with the design. I'm a huge fan of Siebert for heavy use knives. If you're wanting really tough knives, the Siebert design stuff is awesome. And if you can afford or get the opportunity to get one of his custom knives, they are absolutely amazing. So his designs are really good. I really like the axis lock. A lot of guys have problems with the springs. More psychological problems than actual problems. I've carried Benchmades now for over 20 years. Never had an Omega spring break. So I know guys have. I know it can be an issue, but the original Adamas was actually a military collaboration, and it was issued in certain branches of the military and used and really liked. I mean, it was a very popular knife amongst the military who carried it. So it's a fantastic design, but there is an easy fix. Don't do this if you are not inclined mechanically or feel like you're going to mess up the knife in any way, or you might put yourself in danger. I mean, this is not something just to do. If you're actually having lock issues, I'd recommend first you send it into Benchmade. But for those who really want to understand the knife and know how it works, there is an actual pretty simple fix to this. So first of all, the lock works by the lock bar. This is the lock bar, and it goes over this is the axis lock, and it goes over the top of the blade, blocking the blade from folding. So it basically is just a blade block. You see it pop into place there. That's how that works. I left mine dirty just so you could see exactly where that lock bar is hitting. So you can see the lint there where it's pushed that up, and now you see the full contact area. The problem with the knives that are failing, from what I can see, is that it's not going far enough up on the blade. So let me see if I can get a good shot of this here. It's not going far enough this way, and so it's staying back on the back of the ramp and not engaging fully. So there's an easy fix for this. Again, don't do this if you don't feel like you can handle it, but all you do is you loosen. What I would do is I would probably do it on this side. I would loosen this one slightly, actually on the stop pin. So that's the stop pin right there. That's what the blade rests against. So if you loosen those screws just a little bit, just so that they're not tight, and then you loosen the pivot slightly, just a little bit. So all you're doing is loosening them. Then what you do is with one hand, you put the blade down on I would do a wooden surface, like a butcher block or something like that. And you press down this way. So you press down on the blade, and then while you're pressing down, you tighten those screws up. What that does is it sets the stop pin in the right spot. It lowers the angle of that blade slightly and allows the lock to go further up on the blade. I've done this. It worked perfectly. I talked to Benchmade about it, and they obviously are not going to just give anybody permission to fix the knife, but they're aware of what's causing this now, and I just don't think you'll see it out of production. But if you do, it's an easy fix. It's, it's also something that they can fix if you send it in to them. But I believe it's just a minor assembly issue, and that's all there is to it. This knife is fantastic. I'm a huge fan. You can really wail on it. It's super strong. It's got full liners, so they're, you're not going to get a lot of lateral flex on this knife. You're just going to get a fast deployment, heavy use knife. Siebert's designs are amazing. Benchmade's quality is amazing. The crew wear is one of my favorite all-time steels. So I was so excited when they decided to do this model in crew wear. You'll notice my blade is sharpened at a lower angle. That's why the wide bevel. But I just wanted to make it a little bit more slicey because it is plenty tough. At 64 HRC, it is a fantastic knife in general. So hopefully that helps you guys who are concerned about lock issues and those tinkerers out there who like to take their knives apart. When you're reassembling your Benchmade, that's also something to consider. I would almost set the lock like that anytime you reassemble a Benchmade. It's easy, just a little pressure, tighten the screws, and you're good to go. And you can test it out. I don't recommend spine whack testing just because it can be dangerous. But if you hold it so that nothing's in the way and you give it a tap that way, you can test to see if that lock is strong. But if it fails and that blade shuts, you could literally cut your finger to the bone if you are not careful. So just be really careful when doing this kind of stuff. And I always recommend first, if you have a problem, just send it into Benchmade. But, guys like me, we don't like to mess with the mail, so we just kind of fix things ourselves. And that is a really good way to do it. Have a great morning, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.